and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of On Point. With me today are some of the great minds of Liberian politics. I will be doing some analysis and we will dissect the issues affecting us in Liberia. My name is Jerome Gaiman. I'm the host. Let us get going here. Obviously, in Liberia, we have trending issues of all kinds, and it's called easy picking. As usual, we say this is politics. This is political season time. We call this season silly season. There are times that there are things that will not make sense, but the spinners in chief, like Mr. Tule, will try to do all he can to make sure that it makes sense. But let's go through some of the topics that we're going to be dissecting today. One will be the ambassador at large, the U.S. ambassador at large visits Liberia and talks with crime courts. Talk about the crime court. Number two on there, the U.S. ambassador speaks further on the sanctioned officials in Liberia to make some clarity. But the spinners in chief. Number three, we have the rice and food shortage in our nation's capital, or actually in the Republic of Liberia. What can we do about self-sufficiency with our local production? And number four, we are going to be looking at the competing lists. President Weah came out, Team Weah, and recently Mr. Cummings came out with his list. Do we expect a list from Ambassador Joseph Boakai? I would like to introduce to you Mr. Blowjay Nation. That's his pen name, but he's actually Mr. C. Charlie. Mr. Charlie, welcome to On Point. I know this is your first time, and I will give you the salute here. I think you need one of them. Look at this. Look at this here, young man. You need one of these. That's right. That's right. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, sure. It's always it's a good thing being here with you guys. I follow the show. Great discussion, and I'm happy to share this platform tonight.
Great. Mr. Tule, welcome back, and congratulations on almost completing the very difficult course that you were doing. I'm glad that you are now in the internship. You will be making small money, and then next year by this time you'll be making the big money. And he says small light today, but big light tomorrow. Small money today, but big money tomorrow. Thank you very much, and congratulations to you and the family for the support.
Yeah, man, it's nice being back. I've been away for a little bit, but I'm back. So the struggle continues, Jerome. Nothing changes. We are still here. We're still engaged, and we still, trust in the process. Everything will work out well. You just got to keep working it. If we work it will work.
I wanted to actually salute your wife and your family for giving you the support. It's not easy to go to school in a foreign land and support the family over all these years. So I want to take off my hat to them.
Tell me about it.
Also to you for making it happen. Mr. Tule, since you've been away, I know you've been following the issues on the ground. Lately, the topic of the town have been the U.S. ambassador at large visiting Liberia. Actually, she was appointed ambassador at large. We are talking about the U.S. ambassador here at large, not the U.S. ambassador at the embassy.
Proper.
Yes. She's actually on her nationwide tour, African tour, and one of her stops was Liberia, and her interest in to find out what is happening with the Truth and Reconciliation recommendation that was given to Liberia. How far is it? What are the obstacles? What can the United States do to help move the process? I know you follow through. What is your take on this particular issue?
This issue, I remember having some conversation with Kou family, and we were talking about some of the needs for activism prior to the 2023 elections, because we were aware of the agitations on the ground. We were aware of the tension that was increasing on the ground, especially coming out of that Lofa by-election, the senatorial election. And that was before the announcement of the sanctions, right? I mean, that was after, yeah, that was the election was before the announcement of the sanctions. And I told them, I said, look, we shouldn't worry, because those who, like we always say in this word, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. And I said, those who are actually watching over Liberia would not let this moment slip by. And these agitators on the side of the government who are advocating for violence and who we know have a proclivity to initiate violence, I said they will be checked. And all these visits and the announcement of sanctions, it's all in the vein of, checking some of the excesses of government actors, putting, slowing things down, because there was no check coming from the executive, from the higher up, in the person of President Weah. Since he benefits from whatever positive that comes out of those negative actions of his key actors. I mentioned it many times, and you were always against me mentioning it in the meme of McGill, Twe, and Koji. And I told you, and you said, no, it's not true. And we see that he has been sanctioned. And since he's been sanctioned, this is my first time coming back on the show. Many times I would say, let me go on the show to remind Mr. Gaiman of what I have been saying. So her presence in Liberia is just to lend credence, and it's just to show up civil society that, hey guys, we haven't forgotten you. You guys are not alone against the machinery of power, the illegal machinery, war machinery that Weah and his people have put in place to basically stifle dissent, or apart from stifling dissent, to ensure that everyone toes their line. And if you don't toe their line, you end up in problems. So we've seen it, and I'll tell you the reality here. I am so glad that the Americans have taken all these steps, these inconspicuous steps, to assure Liberians that we are not alone, to assure Liberians that we are not alone against the incumbency and the power of the government. We are not alone. So I'm so happy that she went to Liberia. I heard some of the things she said, talking about war crimes court. But it's not just about war crimes court. It's also to tell, because since Judge Weah came to power, he has said he has been opposed to the issue of the war crimes court. And these people are saying, hey, the issue of impunity, the issue of establishing closure regarding the acts that occurred during the war, and then also, again, looking at economic crimes that have currently been committed, people taking money and buying houses and putting their way in foreign accounts, they will be held accountable. So I am so glad that she went to Liberia.
Blue Jay, I think when you look at Mr. Tule here, he reminds me. The reason why this thing is so comical that some of us will laugh is this is the immediate past administration. This is Joseph Boakai speaking here. Your take. I don't want to leave you on. You know exactly where I'm going here. Go ahead.
Well, I think Mr. Tule is making the discussion difficult because he's flying on a lot of myth, falsehood, and disinformation. And in a discussion, when people intentionally flash like these kind of falsehood and disinformation, they unnecessarily make the discussion, to be off the train. We need to have a good show based on facts. And so when the gentleman talks about the government, people advocating for violence in the country, when did that occur? He talks about illegal war machinery. Where's the illegal war machinery the government has? So, I think we need to we step away. But the point there is that we are all excited for the visit of the U.S. Global Ambassador for War Crimes in Liberia. And I hope the fellows, my friend Tule and other people, will listen very carefully to what the ambassador have said. The ambassador made a very interesting point if you watch some of the interviews he had. she particularly focuses on transitional justice. Transitional justice process. In fact, the government has already begun the process of there was discussion, the proposal from the president, not from the president, in fact, but there was a proposal in the national legislature about transitional justice methods. And so the government in itself is already ahead of the transitional justice curve. And when we talk about transitional justice has to do with addressing the political system in the country, the system, transforming the system in a way that it provides equality to everybody and allow everybody to participate. The government has been doing that. We saw in several elections recently. The ruling party lost these elections, and the opposition celebrated. So this political system in terms of elections, which is at the heart of the governance question, political participation, is on course. Then we're talking about transitional justice. We're talking about also reparations. These are questions that transitional justice addresses, or restitution, compensation. So this issue has to go before the national legislature. And the president is not a dictator. He's not responsible to pass a law and alter a bill to determine whether we'll have war crimes code or not. And the U.S. government respects this process. So this thing has to go to the national legislature. It has to be confirmed. And sadly, when we hear people in the opposition critiquing the government, it's humorous, because the very opposition are majority in the legislature. The very people who are opposition today, they govern the country for the last 12 years. They dominated all institutions in the country, and they fail to do these things. In a serious society, I'm not saying Liberia is not serious, but in other societies, people that are advocating for Joseph Boakai and the Unity Party will have no moral standing to discuss this issue. They should not even be in a public discourse debate right now.
Well, Mr. Tule, I want you to look at a picture here. If you see this real good, that's Jack Klein and myself, and the time on there is April the 8th, 2004, 11:53 p.m. This is prior to your government, the Unity Party coming to power, and some of these very issues were discussed. And one of my contention with him was, from the very get-go, the interim government that was put together, or the transitional government that was put together, where the Republic of Liberia was divided amongst all warring factions, where the warriors, the warlords were able to amass wealth within 18 months, that enabled them to come and run and win because they had so much cash. This is the same United Nations, the same United States government that put these people into this place in the first place. And then, like the ambassador said, with all that we are done and we are continuing to do, the Liberian people, through this legislative body, has to come up with a frame of how this is going to be worked out, whether it is a hybrid, whether it is a compensation or something. But the Liberian Supreme Court reigns supreme on everything here. So it is more than just that meets the eye, Mr. Tule. This is a constitutional issue, especially when the process begins with a referendum. And the referendum, go ahead, where the people spoke through the referendum. Talk to me about
Mr. Gilman, it's not a constitutional issue. If you took this issue and put it on the ballot right now as a proposition for a referendum, it would pass on 1 million.
We did, and it passed.
Okay, now the first thing I want to correct you. I am not a Unity Party partisan.
I understand this.
Yeah, then, but you keep parroting the wrong thing. You keep saying the wrong thing. And then I would like to go back on the issue before I come to the proposal. You said Bloje said he wants us to talk about facts. Who met with former warlords upon the resumption of his duty as Minister of State for Presidential Affairs? Open question, Bloje. Honest question. Who met with former warlords?
I don't know.
You gotta tell me. You're being disingenuous. You know who met with former warlords? It was Nathaniel McGill, and we have we've litigated this issue many times here, Mr. Gim and I.
Which warlord did McGill meet with?
He met with what his name? General Powers. He met with some former lord, some former Unimo, some former
General Power in the context of Liberian politics, and it's not a warlord.
When you were talking, I didn't say a word. Power has been a warlord. Everybody knows Power to be warlord. So he met with these guys, and we even saw Mr. Gaiman and I spoke about it. How Power was at the riot against the LMP in Douala, the Zogos rioting against. We saw the photos. There are receipts, my friend. Power is not. He doesn't have official government capacity. What was he doing? Being amongst security operatives during that time. And we all know there are rumors, but I will leave the rumors for now. We'll come to the fact that it was publicized. There are receipts that Nathaniel McGill met with these former warlords. I have a friend that was there, somebody who I know lived next to me for a lot of years on the airfield. He was there, and I have spoken with some people who were there. I'm telling you today the fact. Nathaniel McGill met with former warlords. Why? Why did he have to meet with former warlords? Why did he have to meet? You are talking about, because I mentioned it and you said I was not, I can't remember the exact words you used, but you said I was dwelling in falsehood. The reality here is this. Everybody knows that Nathaniel McGill have now operated in justice. He's not operated in clarity. He's not operating in the kind of transparency and shown the leadership that he should have shown. That's the reason why, even when even within the, I can look for it when you are talking, I will look for it. Even within the sanction report, the sanction list that came out, the three of them when they were sanctioned, there was a mention of having relationship with warlords in the past. I mean, people of the past, people who have grossly abused human rights in Liberia. There was a mention, and the only person among those three people that were sanctioned, that have had that relationship, open public relationship, cataloged and recorded in the news, is in the media, is Nathaniel McGill. So we're not talking fiction here. And again, you said that people who support Joseph Boakai should not even be mentioning this. Let me say this to you. It is well established in inner circles that Joseph Boakai had a difference. He had a divergent view on the forward, on the appreciation, implementation, and even the consideration of the recommendation of the TRC. He had a different view from Madame Salif. The reason Madame Salif put those recommendations down, she downplayed them, she sat on them and basically destroyed that pathway to closure, was because she is the key architect of the war in Liberia that resulted in the death of almost 300,000 of our compatriots. So today, if we are calling for war crimes court, because even if it holds Joseph Boakai or my father or my mom, let them be held accountable and let us have closure. Let us have closure. So that lady coming to Liberia, talking about transitional justice. Transitional justice, the fact of the matter is this: there is no justice in Liberia. There's no justice currently in Liberia. Let me tell you one fact. In Liberia today, you have more than at the current population at the central prison is just above 1,000. Out of that 1,000, almost 40%, almost 80% are pre-trial detainees. And some have been there for 5-6 years. Their cases have not been adjudicated. Their cases have not yet. Write it down, check it. Almost 80% of the current inmates at the Monrovia Central Prison, South Beach, are pre-trial detainees. Of the 1,000 plus that are there, 800 plus have not been sentenced for any crime. Some have been charged with rape and murder, and they have been there. I speak personally because I had a friend there who was charged with murder, because the reality is he was not a personal friend until he went to prison, and then somebody introduced him to me because I was like an advocate for most of the guys there. He killed somebody. He killed somebody in self-defense, okay, on Gertie Street. and he was in jail for 3 years before I left Liberia. 3 years plus. He went to court twice. The case and the law, the law in Liberia, after several terms of court, if the case is not concluded, the person should be let go. Okay, but he wasn't let go until I left because they said they were afraid of what? Retribution from the family of the victim. So he wasn't let go. The reason why they didn't prosecute the case is left to the prosecutors and the court. But what I'm saying to you is this: there's no justice in Liberia. You can't have justice when the bulk of your population cannot afford to feed themselves. People can't afford to send their kids to school. People cannot afford to feed themselves on a daily basis. That's not justice. That's not equity. That's not equality. So that woman coming to Liberia, it's not just about what you see happening in the past. It's about what is happening right now. That under George Weah-led government, okay, there's complete economic degradation in Liberia. Our economy has been in a free fall. Inflation is at the highest, and they have never.
Yes, 1 minute. Because I was there from the very initial stages. So let me debunk some of the myths. When I was there, Jack Klein was meeting with all the warlords. When Ellen came, when the transitional government came, that was the composition of all the warlords. When Ellen won and Joseph Boakai, they met with the warlords.
Inflation is at the highest,
and they have never. We have no feedback. Somebody's line. Somebody's line is open. When Ellen and Boakai came in, they met with the warlords as stakeholders. When Weah came in, he had to meet with warlords. Joseph Boakai is now meeting with warlords. He has on his team, he has people like Uri and all of these folks. These folks were all warlords.
No, Uri was never a warlord. How you accuse Uri of being warlord?
Listen. We are talking about Cummings now. He's now assembling his own warlords. So warlords are people who were in government, people who are stakeholders, as you can speak, even the legislative bodies. You have Yeke Koluba, who is a warlord, who was elected by his people to represent their interest. So when the ambassador came, she made it clear. She said, my visit here is not specific to Liberia. I am the U.S. ambassador at large for war and economic crime court in the world. And she was on her way. She's making her nation a worldwide tour. And her question was, and I have it here, she said, I want to know what are the obstacles of the issues in Liberia about the war crime. What can we do? And then the guy asked her, did you meet with the president? She said, no, but I did meet with the justice minister, and we talked about issues as it relates to the legality. And she said, I also met with stakeholders like civil society and stuff of that nature. Then she said, but the legislative body has to put in a framework that will make this possible. So for those of you who are anti-George Weah, who want to make this, well, she's here to grab, it's the same mistake you made with the sanction. When I told you the last time that I know much about sanctions, when they are coming, sanction is not an adjudicated process. Sanction is a political process. It's a political issue. It's never adjudicated in court to say we find you guilty. This is a country charging somebody, alleging that this person has done X, Y, Z. Well, the ambassador made it clear also that it is not our job to convict people here. It's our job to help the process. Mr. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Before Charlie comes in, Charlie, he interrupted me. Let me just say something quick. Just 1 second.
Sure.
You downplayed. You were here. You have been one of those backing Nathaniel McGill. I told you,
and I still do. In fact, change my profile.
Keep doing it. But guess what? At least the American people agree with all the things I've been saying against him.
That's not true.
That's why he has been
I told you.
You told me. What did you tell me?
I told you that the sanction is an allegation. It is.
But you and I never discussed sanction. I wasn't on the show when he was sanctioned.
It is fake.
What fake? The man got suspended that he's not functioning in his job. Wouldn't it because of the sanction you call it fake?
It is fake.
How? What? You brave, oh. Listen, the sanction, just because of that sanction, today it's not telling McGill functioning today as the Minister of State.
No.
Oh, so his suspension, where did it come from? Or what was cited?
Mr. Tule, I am a manager. It's okay. When somebody in my organization is accused, whether rightfully or wrongfully, I usually ask them to recuse themselves until the investigation is done. That's what everybody does. That's what a good managers would do. If somebody came in my office, and I give you an example, a lady came in my office and said one of my employees was sexually harassing her. My job was to call him in the office and say, this is an allegation against you. It sounds so bad that I think you will be suspended until the investigation is complete.
Mr. Gaiman, you are trivializing. That's what
managers do.
Mr. Gaiman, you are trivializing. You see,
I'm not trivial. I'm giving you facts. I'm a manager.
Mr. Gaiman, listen. You always tie yourself in all kinds of twisted knots in trying to defend Nathaniel McGill. Listen, do you want me to find the literature that came behind the sanctions declaration? And read it here. You want us to read it again because that was passed a long time ago. Mr. Gaiman, let me tell you something. It wasn't Nathaniel McGill alone. How long Nathaniel McGill been suspended now?
Maybe a month.
Oh, a month? You sure?
Could be a little over a month, maybe.
It's over a month. And the second question I want to ask, was he alone? There were 3.
Yes.
3 persons have been suspended, right?
That's correct.
I'll tell you something. What is the formal investigative process that the government instituted to clear Nathaniel McGill's name?
First of all, and I know how it works, okay? This is intergovernmental agency stuff. The Liberian government will excuse me. The Liberian government through its embassy will appeal to the State Department for evidence. That's how it works. Mr. Charlie,
listen, Chappie, before you come in, that man keep bringing me back in. You're talking about the hand of the king.
What king?
Hold on. Nathaniel McGill is the hand of the king proverbially. He's the hand that he's the one upon whom George Weah leans. Okay? George Weah's government have been decapitated. Nathaniel McGill out of place, it means there is no quarterback anymore in George Weah's government. So this guy is so important to everything George Weah does that you're trying to tell me
it is in your belief that you are entitled to that. That's the only thing you're entitled to that. But we got to go on to the next topic.
We'll go to the next topic.
Go ahead. I think Mr. Tule should do justice to the discussion we're having here.
Make your plans. Forget about me. Whether I do justice or not. We're talking about facts.
I waited patiently for you to speak. That's what I'm talking about.
No, but you see, when I'm answering, I don't talk about you doing that thing. That Sagamotri talk. You elevate the discourse, man.
You're disrupting. I'm engaging you. At least I'm treating you with dignity by mentioning you.
Don't mention me. Just talk.
It's information.
Fact,
so
speak to the issue.
So let's look at the force we got to deal with here tonight. He talked about meeting war laws. In the context of Liberian war law was clearly defined and known from the very beginnings of the Liberian Civil War. We're talking about those who were leaders of this very warring faction. So your assertion that Mr. McGill met with war law is false. It's very dishonest and it has no place in the discussion. But I'm not here to defend Mr. McGill. And with the opportunity to provide information and education for the public, because all the things you have been saying has no relationship to truth and reality. We earlier talked about what the U.S. ambassador wants for Liberia to do, particularly dealing with transitional justice. And the second component, the Liberian government is also addressing that question of transitional justice. The second component to this issue, and I heard you say there's no constitutional issue, begs the question: if there's no constitutional issue, how does law work? A court has to be set up in keeping with the rule of law. The Constitution provides that the legislature is the only authorized organ of the government that can establish a court. It is not the president. Again, remember, I'm sure most of you who are opposed to George, you are not used to democratic governance, and you want this president to behave as a dictator, to go and say he can establish court, claim power that he doesn't have. The legislature has the authority to establish that court. In order for the legislature to establish that code, there are other legal questions that has to be resolved. The United States ambassador talked about establishing a hybrid code. To establish a hybrid code, it must follow international law. And international law is very clear. They cannot impose on a country what it wants. But for international law to take root in a country, that country government, particularly the legislature, the Congress, has to ratify that international law for it to be adopted and accepted in the country. Those things have not happened. There's no ratification. The hybrid code proposal, we have not seen it. The legislature has to do that. The legislature has to ratify. And third, we're talking about constitutional law here, studied in statutory law. There was an act passed by the national legislature in 2003. It's an amnesty law that was passed that granted a waiver to Liberians who participated in the war at some higher level. This law was consistent with the Liberian 1986 constitution that equally did the same thing by granting waivers to the PRC regime after the overtook. So there are a lot of constitutional questions here that has to be addressed. And unless these constitutional issues are addressed, we cannot move forward. The amnesty question, and I'd like to quickly address the amnesty question. There's this myth, again, that surprisingly, we see that support of Joseph Boakai and Joseph Boakai himself has suddenly turned to pour from Saul after 12 years against these very things that they are talking about. Mm-hmm. There are precedent in international law that are very clear from the United States to many other parts of the country where during the American Civil War, the Confederate generals that fought that seek to break away, secede from the United States, they were equally giving amnesty in the interest of reconciliation by the United States Congress, the Union. They gave General Robert Lee and other people amnesty. We saw that in France. The French did the same thing with amnesty. And
no. Yeah, don't. You see, when you go in history, don't just mention France. Who did France give? Who? Because I don't want to go into the nitty gritty. Who France gave amnesty to after World War II?
You're disrupting.
I'm asking you, you're lying here. Let me tell who France gave amnesty to after World War II.
Let's go, Mr.
No, I got to ask you a fair question. Let me tell who France gave amnesty to after World War II.
The France amnesty is there in 1905. There were amnesty done in France for similar type of crimes that was committed. In fact, Napoleon amnesty is also there. And we have the Prussian amnesty. Even in West Africa, Nigeria, the Nigeria Civil War, the Biafra War took place. The Biafra general was also giving amnesty after some time. The citizens of the country. This has to do with people in the country agreeing what they want the country to be. And the United States has been very clear repeatedly that this question will be answered by the Liberian people. Mm-hmm. So only the Liberian people can answer this question, and it has to be a legal process. No, you are criticizing the president to behave as a dictator. You are telling the president that the president is wrong. The president is supposed to be a dictator.
Did you hear me say that here?
Oh, you continue to critique. The opposition has the majority in the legislature.
Opposition now, you said you.
Okay. The opposition on a unity party rule the country for 12 years.
Mr. Charlie, go ahead and land so we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah. So finally to land, what we are hearing from Mr. Tule and those against his government is mere hypocrisy that has no place in decent societies. Like Liberia, we're trying to build a decent society. It has no place. For 12 years, Joseph Boakai was president of the Liberian Senate. They had all the power to transform these things. We raised this argument then. They rejected it. Why are they coming now with hypocrisy when we are moving forward? In fact, let me just end on this note. Joseph Boakai Unity Party, we're talking about associating with law. Joseph Boakai Unity Party granted titles to war law in all of the campaign. Prince Johnson was giving an honorary Liberia Order of Distinction by Joseph Boakai Unity Party. It was given to Damati Content, the late Ahaji Kurma. All these war law, you celebrated them, you praised them, you gave them a place in our society, and today you have the audacity to raise question. You should be at the back of the bus.
Okay. Jerome, you will not jump to another topic. I have the right to address this issue. Hold on.
1 minute. I'm coming to you. Hold on 1 minute.
Okay, you want to recognize Steve? Go ahead.
Let's recognize Steve here. Steve, welcome to the show. I think this is your first time here, so I have to raise my the cup here. I will send you one so you can drink it. That's what we do for newcomers. Thank you very much for coming. Tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Steve Bole. Commonly known on Facebook as Moses. It's good to see Mr. Tule, sharing the same space with him. I think this is the second time. I'm not new to focus on Liberia, but I'm fairly new to this program. I've watched you guys before I followed your show. Also, Mr. I think that Charles or Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie, good to meet you. Sharing the same space with you. My first time interacting with you as well. The same thing with Mr. Gamer, who's the host here. I've seen him on a couple of shows, but never interacted with him. I'm a Liberian. I love Liberia as much as all of you, or maybe more so. But we're going to test that love very soon. As always, anytime I have the opportunity to appear on any show, one of the first things I do is I make a disclaimer. I believe, in my personal view, that the Liberian people are the most important people on earth. That's what I believe, as evidenced by the fact that we've left everything that we should have been doing this beautiful Sunday to be here talking about Liberia. And some of us were miles and miles away, but we still, Liberia is still on our minds. Our people, are still on our minds. The second part of my disclaimer is I believe the Liberian women are the most beautiful women on earth. I want to challenge any one of you in studio today to disprove that fact. And we can probably have that discussion on here. You'll be falling in trouble with the Liberian women. You'll be falling in trouble with your parents, your grandparents, and where you hail from. I can see you
purchase sympathy here from the women. You want purchase sympathy?
Purchase sympathy. Man, talking something serious. He said purchase sympathy, bro.
The better politician, huh? Yeah, but thank you very much, Steve. And please do us a favor, share this show on your platform, your guests and everything else. But Mr. Steve, while you were here, let me give you a fresh crack. I know Tule, you're going to address that in another.
But let me finish addressing it.
1 minute. No, we have gone 35 minutes. We should have spent 20 minutes with 35 minutes.
Yeah, but that still doesn't.
You can do it through your rebuttal on the scene number 2. It's the same thing.
No, Mr. Gamer. Give me 30 seconds. I'm not going past 30 seconds.
Okay, go ahead. 30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds. The reality here is this, right? That Joseph Boakai, yes, he was vice president. We can't over-litigate this thing. For me, it's a non-issue. He was a vice president. All of us know that vice presidencies in Liberia are basically ceremonial. The president makes the decisions that the president wants to make. If the vice president is in a disagreement, he can go home and cry. That's the only thing he can do. He can go home, press conference, say, I disagree with my boss. You don't do that, okay? So the issue on the ground here is this. Madame Seliv, she was a party to the crisis. She is one of those who should be held responsible for not only the planning and execution, but the sustenance of the crisis in Liberia. So that is so far removed from who Joseph Boakai is as an individual. Okay? Even if Joseph Boakai had affiliation with any kind of warring faction, let him be held accountable. When I said the issue wasn't a constitutional issue, what I meant was there is nothing in our constitution that precludes the establishment of a war crimes court. We, Liberia, Blowjay, correction to you, are signatories to the the establishment of the International Criminal Court. We are signatory. We ratify that convention, international convention. We, Liberia, and I will tell you another thing again. Going back to 1905, we're not talking 1905. When World War II ended, France held everybody that was part of Vichy or that were collaborators with the Nazis. They held all of them accountable. Let me tell you something. We will hold everybody, as long as the people are alive in this country, in Liberia, we'll hold people accountable. With the right leadership, the national legislature will be brought in line with this. We will hold impunity will die in Liberia. I don't care what you people say.
Thank you.
This is the beginning of it. So spin it any way you want to spin it.
Thank you very much. Steve, number 2 on the list here is the clarity from the U.S. ambassador. When the U.S. ambassador was actually pronouncing the sanctions, he made a couple of errors, and there were a lot of pushback from people like us and other folks on the ground that he misspoke. When the heat arose, he came back and sent his surrogates to the Liberian community to let us know that he misspoke by saying that sanction is only an allegation, and all those who are involved or who were accused has to go through the Liberian constitutional process, the judicial process. And our sanction, it is not the sole reason for why people are saying these people should not contest their constitutional rights, should not be violated because they were accused. And another question was, have you met with these folks to give them a chance to explain themselves or to litigate? And he said, no, this is not about jurisprudence. This is basically a political accusation, but they do have a chance to litigate this, to clear the name. But and he also reminded us that this is not punitive in nature. This is about behavior change. I think you've seen it, you read it. So go ahead, your take on it, and where do we stand? Where do you stand on that issue?
Well, first of all, I'd like to. I didn't say something, but I want to say I'm from SKTV. I meant to infuse that into the conversation, but since we all were laughing,
we'll send you a little bill before you leave.
Right. So I'm from SKTV, sure. One of the co-hosts there. I know you guys talked about the first question, and I just wanted to throw him on there and answer your question very briefly here. The first question that you guys are talking about the visit of the U.S. ambassador at large to Liberia. To be quite honest, I think we got to be clear about this UN ambassador. She's not just anyone. I hope that some other time maybe we'll spend time on maybe who she is, what she's done, what is her mission going forward, as opposed to how it aligns with the Biden administration's mission, the Biden and what her name, and Harris administration, the mission and the vision. It's critically important that we outline these things. And also, I think her visit to Liberia reunites, it rejuvenates, and it brings about a call for the War and Economic Crime Courts or some kind of accountability or justice in Liberia. Now, both the Unity Party and the CDC, I think in my view, has been playing politics with the issue of justice. Yeah. And that's unfair. We can't keep kicking this can down the road. I think something needs to be done. And I think the boy in President George Weah's court to see if he can muster the courage to take care of this issue. But I'm also sure that if he does nothing at this point, he could be in trouble for that. I want to make sure I point that out because this visit was not mutually exclusive for all of the things happening, especially when President George Weah told us on August 15, after the three senior officials were sanctioned, that he would constitute an investigation. As evidenced by that also, Nathaniel McGill also requested an investigation. He supported the president. Yet the president has done nothing about it. They're playing politics with it. And it leads us now to this question that we're on with this sanction, if these guys can even participate. From what I heard from the American ambassador, I agree with you, Mr. Gaiman, that he did misspeak or he misspoke, however we want to term it. But I think the issue here is, the bottom line is, should this sanction impact the ability for Nathaniel McGill or Bill Twire to run in the next election, or even Prince Johnson and Vanny Sherman? Definitely. I think that is the big picture. So what they're saying, in essence, the American people are not going to come and tell you from a diplomatic standpoint. They may actually wrong. No, they're not going to do that. We know they're not going to do that. But we also know, based on precedents, that they've acted in other ways to ensure that you follow the mandate. If you don't follow the mandate, then it becomes a problem, because they can say in their communication to us that if anybody do business with these guys, they'll be in trouble. But then they've seen American people turn around and finance our elections. What sense does that make? That is a contradiction of themselves. And the Americans will not do that. So the bottom line here is this. They're not going to come and tell us the men shouldn't run. They're telling President George Weah, or they're telling the CDC-led government, or the Liberian government at large, you'll do something about these guys. It's time for you to investigate these guys and prosecute them. If you don't do it, then there will be actions to follow. Basically, that's where. But I was also excited to have them clarify some of these things, because when those two guys were in studio at OKFM, they made it clear that this sanction would impact the family of these guys that are on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear. It extends to that. It's not just exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
These things are not mutually exclusive. It's bigger than we think. And these things, whether you want to term it as political or whatever it is, like you said earlier in your expose, we're in political seasons. And so some of these strategic moves would be made to push whether the current government. We saw what happened to Charles Taylor when the time was ripe. We saw what happened to Charles Taylor, how they squeeze him, how they squeeze people around him. We saw what happened to other leaders around the world, how they will squeeze people around them to get to them. We see what's happening to Donald Trump in this country. They're squeezing almost everybody around him. Eventually, they end up with him now. Now they're in the quagmire where he's running around. So I'm saying, in all honesty, as a Liberian, as a patriotic Liberian, President George Weah and the city and the current government at large, all three branches, they must do something about the issue of impunity. It's critically important. There will be no joke, and the Biden administration will not renege on their promises to hold people accountable. That's my view.
Mr. Charlie, here we are. I have lived my entire life in the diplomatic circle, Washington in particular, the United States, and I know very well that the United States has clout. There's no denying that, but we also understand that the people have the final say, and it based on. I will live my life. I will lay my life down on the Constitution, on the side of the Constitution, where the Liberian people will decide exactly what is it they want. I remember when the TRC report came on. Those of us who were supporting the CDC government said that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf should not run from here. We piled on that pressure. What she did, she took the case to the Liberian Supreme Court, and the Liberian Supreme Court. And you can correct me on that. Everybody was here because some of us said that she would not run in the 2011 because the TRC report has sanctioned these folks that most of them should not even be part of government for up to 30 years. And the Liberian Supreme Court said those were some illegal terms and they waived that right. And so here we are. I want to err on the side of Liberian Constitution, our Liberian sovereignty. Go ahead, Mr. Charlie.
Yeah, you make some very, very excellent point. And our brother who just came on, Steve, I wanted to go to one thing he said about the U.S. officials that were on OKFM. If you listen to them very carefully, when it came to the question of whether sanctioned officials can participate in elections, they were very clear that these things have to be in concert with Liberian laws. United States are respecter of due process. At the heart of American democracy is due process and the rule of law. And the officials said very clearly that they take these things as a national security interest to America. So if it's a national security interest to America, one will assume and expect that America will not be advocating a violation of Liberian laws, because to violate Liberian laws would mean to be encouraging a state of chaos and anarchy in the country. And so with that in mind, we can be assured that unless Liberian law says somebody who was sanctioned cannot contest, it has to be a legal process to establish that fact. Every citizen in Liberia still possess and enjoy the fundamental citizenship right until a competent court say no and that right restricted. So we need to get away from. I understand Major Joseph Boakai is so anxious to be president of our country, but the United Party desperation after failing for 12 years cannot be a basis for us to abrogate the laws of the land. And quickly, let me respond back to what our friend said about the French and the Nazi, and they were prosecuted. Look, the Nazi and the French, that question was not a civil war. It was not a civil dispute. When I reference amnesty in France and many other countries, it was based on civil dispute. In
No. The 1905 wasn't civil. France didn't have any civil vote. France did not have any civil disputes. Don't establish farcical trends here. France did not have any civil disputes.
I mean, you have a chance.
Anybody need to be granted amnesty for.
You have a chance. Nazi, the Nazi
when I come to history, I can be sleeping and then you wake me up. I will tell you about it. Don't lie.
The Nazi question was not a civil war issue.
What?
Nazi came from Germany. So it was not a civil, it was not internal, the Nazi was not an internal issue, and that's why the people persecuted. There was French amnesty. So we have to look at these distinctions when we're talking about this question. The United States government was very clear, and is very clear, and Ambassador re-echoed the point. So Mayor Joseph Boakai, Unity Party, cannot come and try to impose. I know the Unity Party don't let them respect the rule of law as they did in the past when the TRC report was submitted. They used the court system and influenced negative by annulling that portion of the TRC report that dealt with Ellen Johnson, Sally and Unity and Joseph Boakai. And finally, let me make a point.
Hey, Joseph Boakai wasn't there. Don't lie. That's another lie. He wasn't held responsible in anything.
Boakai was as president of the Liberian Senate. The argument that a vice president is when he describes it ceremonial. I mean, is that a joke? There's a constitutional mandated function in the country. It's written down in the Constitution. The laws give the vice president exclusive constitutional powers. The most important branch of government, the vice president, is the only individual that is a member of two branches of government. He's a member of the executive branch and a member of the judicial and the legislative branch. The Constitution giving that explicit authority. And so Major Joseph Boakai failed. Major Joseph Boakai failed to use that power, and that's why Major Joseph Boakai presides as president over the Liberian Senate. That's a constitutional function in the legislature, makes him a member of the legislative branch, and as vice president, a member of the executive branch. So that position has they participate in two branches with all conflict of interest because constitutional or mandate. So we need to respect the laws of the land. The law says, and it's very clear, the Constitution provides for the legislature to authorize a court process. And if it has to do with anything international or court, as my brother is saying that we already signed, signing a treaty to international law does not mean that a specific international thing can be done without ratification by the Liberian Senate. You have to study the Vienna laws, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Processes. These things must be signed and ratified. Every law, even business, for international business to be established in another country, they must go through a process that has to be consented to by the national legislature. So let's respect the laws of Liberia and let's forget about dictatorial behavior.
Thank you. Let's go to number 3. Steve, I know you're going to come back to that. Number 3 on this list, I want Mr. Thule to take on this because not that he's an expert on it, but he has in-depth knowledge about the rice situation.
Well, why you won't let me speak to the issue number 2?
No, we are coming to that. What I'm saying here,
anyway, go ahead. Just go ahead.
Through your rebuttal, you can do that. That's what I'm saying. You did it eloquently the last time when we came in with the second subject. But the reason I want you to start off with this is because you have a vast knowledge of this. You've been preaching this for the time I've been knowing you about rights, about the self-sufficiency, what we can do, what President Tupper introduced, Agremenco, and all of those. You have vast knowledge of it. And now that Steve is here, we're going to look at the political implications, our market, and all of that. This is why I went, and then you can go ahead and do your rebuttal or speak on that. So let's go with number 3, because the show is divided into 3 parts. After we have exhausted some of this, we will have calls or we'll read comments that will be directed to either Steve, you, or myself, and then we can delve into those. Then we go into the closing. So you lead us on with this rice issue. What is going on? What can you do?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. Before I go to the rice issue, I'll come back in.
Sure.
It is quite asinine. Let me just be honest with you. For us to say that because of prior government did not take steps to address certain ills, therefore, I who in government right now, I wouldn't do the same thing. Because when I'm asked, I would say, oh, the people who were there before, they didn't do it.
We have never said that. We have said respect the laws.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we agree.
Based on the law, we've never said what he said.
But my reliance would be, the people were there for 12 years.
No, we've never said that. We said respect the laws. That's all. We've never said that.
I agree, but yeah, we fine with that. So the problem here is you have a president who comes to power and who is acutely aware, that his predecessor was number one on the list of those held responsible for the Civil War. And a recommendation was advanced that this woman be, along with her cohorts from different affinity groups, warring factions, be excluded from Liberian politics for X amount of years, which she railroaded, and she contested into 2011 and remained in power and she did more harm in the last 6 than she did, that erased most of the gains that she made in the first 6. She should have just walked away into retirement, but she was afraid because of the crimes that she had committed against the Liberian people in terms of corruption, that she was going to be held accountable. She's still afraid. That's why she masterminded the election of the incompetent person we have right now as president of the Republic of Liberia. It's just a mess show if you look at it from every perspective. So I will segue right now into the rice issue. Ellen, one of the crimes that she committed against the Liberian people was the 12 years she was there, she did not establish a food security policy in Liberia. Let me say this also again. There are enough enterprise funding. There are enough monies out there in the international community for investment in agriculture. Some for you to use as a nation, others for you to open up and bring people not only in agro businesses that are into cash crops like palm oil and rubber, which are volatile crops. Because let me tell you something, no matter what crisis we go through, no matter what happens on the earth, food prices will always go up. If anybody disagree with me, tell me. I don't care what crisis we go through, whatever we go through, food prices will remain constant. They will not drop. Because guess what? No matter what happens on the face of the earth, people will eat food. People will need to eat food. We have neglected, and we have arable lands. Okay, we have good arable land in Liberia. We have good seasonal rainfall, even though I'm one of the advocates that have said that we need to go past the seasonal planting of crops into utilizing irrigation to be able to plant cross-seasonal crops so that we can always harvest and ensure food security in Liberia. Now, let me also say this. The negligence of governments, not only this one and the one prior to it, to really establish, and this one is a crime, because the reason why this one is a crime for the CDC-led government, we were in opposition for 12 years. We said everything imaginable about the ineptitude, the lack of seriousness, the dropping the ball, how the Unity Party-led government did not do some of the things they needed to do. For you to spend 12 years criticizing somebody about certain things, and then you come to power and you operate in a way that is so negligible, that is so negligent, not even negligible, sorry, that is so negligent, that is so inept, that actually legitimizes the 12 years that you criticize, is a crime against humanity. That's the reality here. It's actually a crime against humanity for you to spend 12 years criticizing somebody about something and then come and operate in a way that legitimizes, that validates them. Is a crime against humanity. It's a crime against yourself, crime against the name you bear, crime against the generations, your progenies, and that are going to come after you. So I will say this. What is happening right now? Let's look at the issue when it comes to food security. Right now, last week we heard the rumblings about the lack of rice being on the market and steps that government needed to take. I'm sure, Mr. Gaiman, that there is no way that George Weah government in the first 4 years is going to, wave a magic wand to cancel all the problems that predates him even before his birth regarding Liberia and our agriculture. Because from 1920, when we started going to negotiation with Firestone to give them that land, and also again, not only to give them the land, but to also ensure that we co-opt people from the most farming, the most industrious farming communities to work the land for Firestone. We broke our own ability to feed ourselves from the 1920s. We broke our ability to feed ourselves. Now, I'm not expecting any or magic here, but the first thing I'm looking for to see is the institution or just the crafting of a plan of action that will incentivize agriculture, that will recapitalize the the Agricultural Cooperative Development Bank. That would not want to do that, but will also bring investment in WADA, in CARI, and make sure that the CDA is working to collectivize farmers all across Liberia. I was also looking for a plan that would say, okay, you know what? We have, and I said this to you many times, Mr. Gaiman, how we don't have any regulation with plenty of rubber and palm oil in Liberia. So people are now hawking, they are now taking lands that have been used to produce seasonal crops. They're now tying those lands down with cash crops that are there, that are planted for generations. And there is no policy to say, okay, in these districts, we'll parcel out the land. You can only use this portion of the land to plant cash crops, and these portions of the land will be kept for full crop production. So everybody plants rice, and then they interplant it with either rubber or palm oil. And at the end of the day, Liberia stands to really not benefit in terms of full crop production, because we do not have a full crop security policy. The reason why I went this winded, Mr. Gaiman, there is no way we can underpin this issue. We can underemphasize or overemphasize this issue. It is not only Judge Weah did not create this problem, he inherited it, but he has not brought the right people in place. You cannot have somebody who is a rice farmer or farmer as the head of the Ministry of Agriculture. You have to have a scholar. You have to have an academic who understands agriculture, who is able to speak the language, and who is able to harness, who is able to bring technology to Liberia, who knows what the technology is about.
Well, Steve, I'm this one is this is non-partisan here. When you look at the topic here, we are talking about food self-sufficiency, the why, how, when, and all that. This is where we are. When I support the Weah government, and when the Weah government came into power, I used my leverage here in the United States with the University of Florida, the aquaculture program with Purdue. And they sent a team to my hometown, Buchanan, to look at to resurrect the flour milling company that was in Liberia during the boom days that were doing very well. So we took a 4-man delegation from here with a drone and everything, $10,000 it cost these folks to go. After they went to Buchanan, spent a week, actually 10 days, did the assessment, did everything else. They came back and said, Mr. Gaiman, the flour mill company there, what they are using there in the 60s will no longer suffice. So we have to actually demolish the entire program, which will cost about $5 million. We have to reconstruct, and we are not going to be using warehouses anymore to store grain. So we need the sophisticated silos and all that we use in our. So they went through the whole 9 yards. Then finally, when I met with them in Florida, they said, listen, we cannot do the project in Liberia. First of all, Liberia does not have the kind of market that we are talking about. To make money, to have the ROI, whatever it is that they are looking at, now we have to engage the entire ECOWAS. And we are not prepared to invest in negotiating with the Ivory Coast, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Ghana to sell our produce. So we wasted all that time and money because the market is so small that it makes no sense for someone to invest in a major way if you are not intending to export. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying here, we've been going through this, and my own government, I thought by now, because in the, Mr. Tule talked about scholarly work. In the early government, we have Chris Toh, Dr. Toh has a PhD in agriculture, and nothing happened.
No, he's a criminal.
Come on now.
No, he's a criminal. The man is
here is George, President Weah is here, and we have not put forth, and I'm including myself here, we have not put forth an agriculture plan that would say this is how we're going to deal with this. This is the short range, mid range, and long range plan to deal with it. It makes me to think there has to be some kind of cartel in place here that is inhibiting growth when it comes to this area. Address it, help me out here.
Well, you see, the issue of the rice, just before I hit on it, I wanted to make sure Mr. Blowjay, to agree with Mr. Blowjay that, yes, the people in the studio did talked about, the issue of this whole situation going through the legislature and so forth, and they could not just do anything about it. It has to be the people. But also, they're also open to providing the evidences. The U.S. government is willing to work with the Liberian government. So on the issue of justice and amnesty, I have to agree with everyone here that we dropped the ball from the Constitution. We dropped the ball from the get-go, and we can fix this thing. All of us, regardless of who you support, if we can just tell our leaders and hold them accountable to say this must be done, it must be done. We can't allow the next generation to be faced with this. That's on the issue of amnesty that I'm a little confused also, that with the issue of amnesty, if 2003 amnesty was granted, and then we come to 2005, the TRC, another bunch of legislators come and commission, get this TRC, everything is going, the president agree with everything fine. The report come out and there's a whole, that we have a problem as a people. Like you said, that bogs down again to the cartel that do not want justice and accountability. That's just my view on it. But let's get to the rights issue. Yes, the rights issue is an age-long issue. And part of this, I had this argument with someone who support Joseph Yuma Boakai. They got there with me. I said, we can trace it back to Joseph Yuma Boakai. He worked at the agricultural ministry back then. I asked the person a simple question. What are some of the things he put in place to help us? Yes, please. Can you just help us, please?
Yeah, he championed what they call the Green Revolution.
Yeah, where is it now? How can we refer to that?
How can you look at the transition from that time to now?
Okay,
ministers were under his leadership. It was imperative. It was an imperative that you go and plant farms to feed your people, to contribute. And we had local rice on the market. What are you talking?
So
we have local rice on the market bags.
So that's a debate we can have another time. But I want to stick with the rice issue. We can attribute this to Joseph Yuma Boakai and other people who came on. Fast forward today, one of the biggest mistakes we've made today that got us to where we are, especially the CDC-led government, first took over 5,019, tons of rice given to us. I don't know how to term that, by Japan. We should have managed that. We should have, as a nation. What we saw the government doing, they put it in bag, propel rice, and they changed the rice, and they started to miss. That's why I started being concerned a little bit about management issue. So I have to agree with George here also that apart from us maybe accusing Boakai from back then, and George will make the assertion that, it didn't transition because of the war, whatever it is, giving. But to the present reality now, we have mismanagement issue.
12 years. Yeah, 12 years. You're right, because they had 12 years.
These simple things, these guys cannot be able to manage it. Part of it also, this rice crisis we're having, or shortage right now, it's not mutually exclusive. There's a pattern. 2019, when we mismanaged that rice that was given to us by Japan free of charge, 2020, we started to have rice issue. They went to Ivory Coast. They signed a deal with the African rice production. There's an article I read about that. They signed an article. Fast forward, it didn't materialize. Okay, we moved to 2020. We had rice issue. They blame it on the COVID. Okay, 2021. The same rice issue around the same time of the year. If you notice it, there's a pattern. It will start happening around August, September, and then it runs into maybe the end of the year. And then just as of late, the president is coming for the UNGA. Fine. They knew that there was this shortage of rice issue coming on, because I know, as evidenced by that before they left for the UNGA, there was also a report sometimes in June. France 24 carried that report. That article, there was a rice shortage. Let me give you the article. Let me tell you what the title of the article was. Quote, "Gold dust, Liberian queue for rice." This article came out June 10th. So this is to tell you, and then the president takes the minister of commerce, takes her, they come to America. They left all of the noise behind there. So to be quite honest, Mr. Gaiman, this government dropped the ball, and up to now, the Minister of Commerce, we can't hear from him. We can't hear from all of these guys. What are we doing to even update the people? They made it look like that's some kind of trouble that people take to even talk about this rights issue. So yes, we can start to look forward to plans to be able to sustain ourselves. But how can we address the present day issue though? Can the president or the government take account, be accountable to the Liberian people to just let us know what's going on? But one of these hasn't spoken to us. We cannot speak for our own rest business. The president does not talk about it. You know, so this is all lack of leadership and management. These are things that can be mitigated. We have Liberians, whether they're in Liberia or out of Liberia, that can help in this area. I would urge the government to reach out and let's get serious. Let's be proactive. Right. That is my view on this issue.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a non-political, non-partisan issue here. When Mrs. Cooper was touted by the opposition to run that ministry, I was a little skeptical because she did have a farm, but it was a personal thing. And I didn't think she was the right person for the job. Now here we are back to square one. Do we need a think tank? Let us try to, first of all, not weaponize or politicize what's happening, because that's what's happening here. Every president, every administration have been afraid of this topic because it has been so weaponized politically that all they do is you run out of rice, you go and bring 100 metric tons and you feed the folks and they quiet down. But we have not had a think tank to say this is what the problem is, this is what we're going to do. And on that think tank, we need to bring our international partners and say, listen, you got to help. If you want to help us, we got to help us do this. We have not seen that. And now we have a Feed the Future that is coming. The president is coming here to the White House and they're going to talk about this. What would you think as a thinker that once and for all, when my children were babies, one of the ways the Americans have dealt with this food insecurity thing is that they make food diversity, diet diversity, they made it a policy, public policy. If you go to your children's school from kindergarten, they have a plate that comes in 5 portions. One for carbohydrate, protein, green, veggie, they have all of that. So when you go to Liberia, we have our plate is only 1 portion, rice. There's no vegetable, there's no protein, there's nothing else. So what can we do as citizens? Let's take out the politics and deal with this.
Yeah, I'm happy that you talk about not politicizing the rice issue. And also kudos to our friend Tule when he says that this is not a Weah problem. We are inherited this problem, and we anticipate we will solve this problem. I'd like to begin with the last comment from Mr. Gaiman. And when you're talking about diet diversity and research or think tank. In 2008, we don't need any think tank. We don't need any research. These things have already been done. In 2008, there was a study done by the United Nations Office that coordinated humanitarian affairs, the World Food Program, and other international agencies in Liberia, because we did have a rice problem at the time. The Joseph Boakai Unity Party government, the solution to that problem was to issue an executive order in 2008 in March to do what I would characterize now as toxic arrest tariff suspension. So the solution of the Joseph Boakai Unity Party for 12 years, or almost 12 years, not 12, but since 2008, every year has been to what? To renew the toxic arrest tariff suspension. And what will interest you mostly, and some people have been talking about whether these things are cartel or as a kickback, what will interest you in 2008, according to the research by the Office of the Humanitarian Affairs of the United Nations and the Food Agriculture, and which is fact, the price of rice in Liberia, the 25K when looked at, was about $16 a bag. So imagine at that time, $16 a bag. And the government solution, the Unity Party of Joseph Boakai solution was to take away tariff, reduce the tariff. But that reduction of tariff still did not help, because the actual price should have been around $13. So they added $2 on it. The government added $2 on it, and the importers also added $3. So we have $5 extra profit. Who are getting those extra profit? We don't know. But fast forward, so this thing was repeated under Joseph Boakai Unity Party government for several years. They passed executive orders 19, executive order number 45, 70, 80, 87, so forth, as a solution. But the interesting part here is that in 2008, the recommendations for getting out of this thing, number one, the United Nations people and for welfare agriculture said the short-term solution they provided for Liberia was, you talk about a full nutrition feeding program for school. Government should spend some money, because remember, like you said, eating this one dry rice also has a future negative consequences on the population growth. So young children are growing up who will not be academically sound, who will not be mentally sound, who will not be intellectually sound, because they are not eating the right nutrition to grow their brain and their body. And these people, we have some learning disability. So there are a lot of negative consequences. At the end of the day, they will not even be able to govern the country in the future. So that's one of the recommendations from the study, is that we should increase nutrition in school. Another recommendation they provided in our town, these are the short-term recommendations. They say, okay, for now, in 3 months' time, government should increase input and manage the consumption so that they will know when to restock. And then they provided also a medium-term solution. And the medium-term solution was to invest in agriculture, which was, if the government has done that between March of 2008 to 2010, according to this World Bank study, we should invest in agriculture, in medium farming, to grow more food and diversify this food. Remember, in all of these recommendations, the World Bank, who is sponsoring most of our programs in Liberia, say the United Nations, did not talk about building roads first before investing in agriculture. They did not say go and bring electricity before you invest in agriculture as the Unity Party and Joseph Boakai solution to development in Liberia. Agriculture was Joseph Boakai shouting from Weah, roll as a solution. The people at the international community said, look, you need this urgent investment. And yes, told the point that just we are inheriting this problem. Look, when we take away the politics and look at this thing raw, I'm not an economist yet, but if we look at it on a raw economic basis, you will see that the business circle has different points when it fluctuates. We saw that the 2008 Wall Street crash in America did not occur in 1 or 2 years. There were several years before the bubble burst. The problem we're facing in the business circle is a long-term refusal by Joseph Boakai Unity Party government to address this problem, and now this problem is busting.
After 4 years,
the Weah government, the Weah government did intervene. The Weah government did intervene.
How?
And Weah came to office in 2018. We are the short term, in keeping with the recommendation, we are also issue a tariff. Listen, that short term tariff to also reduce the price. And the difference between the Weah tariff and the Unity Party, Joseph Boakai Unity Party tariff, is that the price of rice came down to $13 a bag. But the government, in its wisdom, also based on the international recommendation, these tariffs cannot be sustainable over a long run. And that is why the only solution we're hearing from the opposition is the government should keep paying all this money, because the government has refused to pay this money to importers. That's why we have a problem. This kind of toxic tariff suspension is not sustainable in any economic terms. So the government has to
We're talking about food production. You're talking about tariff, bro.
Mr. Blodgett, I hate to interrupt. Can I just
let me just end. Let me just end. The government has done some minimal intervention in the agriculture process. If you look at this new program the government created, LACRA responsible not just for rice production, but other crops that LACRA is also investing to increase government revenue, and also to allow government time to also do some other investment. Today in Liberia, we see that because of the economic space that the government has created, we are seeing more local producers of rice on the market as opposed to the 12 years of the Ellen Johnson government, Joseph Boakai, a United Party government.
You know that 12 years true, ain't got no basis of true, eh?
We did not see private production in rice. Now, we are seeing huge quantity of. It's not enough, but it's happening, and these things are not easy. A problem to solve. These are legacy problems that has to take some time to solve, but we are moving in the right direction. And
you don't have a plan, my friend.
Is not the tourist subsidy program is not a solution to.
You don't have a plan. What are you talking?
Go, Steve.
Yeah.
From what Charlie just explained, it looks like we have the plan, but we don't have the will to implement.
You don't have a plan. There is no plan. You've done nothing in terms of plan. What? Look, this thing is preposterous and is reprehensible. Tell me quickly. You don't have a plan. Don't say you have a plan, Mr. Gimmin. The Georgia government has no plan. Zero plan when it comes to agriculture, and you know it. But you guys are you're being so disingenuous. Look at the things that Choppy is saying here. Look at the things that he's saying here. Talking about tariff. We're talking about rice production. And let me tell you something, Choppy. That argument that you can make that George Weah inherited a problem and he hasn't done anything much because other people didn't do something to her. Let me tell you something. With the first year,
I've never said that. I said it's a justice problem.
That was the implication.
Not a legacy problem. It's not going to be
the first year we can know that argument. See, go ahead. That first year, 1 year you got an argument.
So the first concern I have about the report that Choppy spoke about is the fact that in any proposal there are also feasibility part of that proposal to determine. So if he said nothing about rule was mentioned in that report or that proposal, I find it questionable.
No. Let me correct. I said that the report did not say you must build road first before you invest in agriculture. I didn't say road was not important in agriculture.
What? That's exactly what I said. What you just said, I paraphrase what you said. But long story short, the report would have exerted, based on the feasibility, the need of road construction before attacking the agricultural issue, because they know everything. That's what I'm saying now. That's what I'm saying in the proposal. I don't know. Maybe I have no clue to the report, but I'm saying the proposal should have said it, because that report should have been substantiated by some kind of proposal. But fast forward, from what I'm hearing from Choppy is this. What I'm hearing from Choppy is he is not giving us the plan for the CDC-led government to address the issue. Rather, he's pointing out what the Unity Party-led government did not do. We agree. Let's agree. Let's agree. We have to move forward. And this is where I have problems with people who are in parties and who are in certain political parties. And I've made this open call that since the Unity Party won't blame CDC won't blame Unity Party, Unity Party, let them go sit down and not getting power again, because we're not on blame game. Let's move forward. But if we have to move forward, then let's hold our leaders accountable. What is the CDC's plan to ensure agriculture going forward? Because this is what we need.
I said it. I said the government has been investing in agriculture.
We say plan. You say investing.
That's a plan. That's the implementation of the plan. This plan.
No. We're asking for the implementation of the plan. We say
what is the plan they're investing in? Hold on now, Choppy. What is the plan they're investing in?
Steve.
What is the plan they're investing in?
I think what they are talking about, and I have to agree with them on this. When we talk about the United States feeding program, we say PL 284, right?
Right.
We have the name of the particular plan, and we say this is the plan that the United States is pushing.
Exactly.
We know that the UN did research, and we have that. What is that plan? And if we have that plan, is that the Weah plan? Is that the plan that
Exactly.
we now we're going to take it by the board and say this is now we are the spearhead. What's wrong with this? Is that what I have not seen that? Maybe I have not seen it.
Mr. Gayman?
Yes.
You don't have to craft the plan for it to become your plan.
No, this is what I'm saying. If this is what we are doing, that's what I'm saying. But you got to own it.
I agree with you. If somebody crafted a very good plan that is a very good roadmap, you can adapt it, you can own it, and you can implement it. Let me just say this thing. We buy between $150 million to $200 million worth of rice every year. One of the simple plans would be a national plan that no matter what government comes in place, sticks with that plan, is that within 10 years, we want to produce half of what we consume as a nation. Let's start from there. Forget about exporting. Mr. Gayman, we're talking about $75 to $100 million.
Sure, gradually reducing it over time. That's correct.
Yeah. So we're not looking, we want export. We just want to fill local demand. Produce rice. Forget about any other crop for now. All the other crops, they can be produced. We don't care. We're looking at rice. We want to produce as many metric tons that can fulfill the need for $75 to $100 million within 10 years. What do we need to do? River G, when you go on that side, you see the swamplands, right? That have been produced. The swampland right now, they've been how you call it? They've been polluted with mercury from illegal gold, artisanal gold mining. Those lands that are very good for rice production have been destroyed right now by the Burkinabes. We're sitting down, we ain't thinking about anything. We can use those lands. One time I told Mr. I said, if we don't even have the local workers ourselves, we can go to Guinea, we can go to Burkina Faso and other places and bring in workers and pay them for them to work these lands. We need to see how we can produce. Because let me tell you something, Bridget. $75 million in the hands of local farmers, saturating in the economy, buying, will produce better schools for the kids to go to. We'll be able to produce infrastructure. Just $75 million. Let's just say, even if half of that is in the hands of the producers of this rice, and they are paying their workers and they are infusing the money into the local economies wherever they are in all the rice producing areas in Liberia, it will help the country. But guess what? Because we don't have plan, I agree with you. Let me tell you something. Madam Salih, what she did with agriculture was a disgrace. And you said Joseph Boakai, I would tell you, was a pedestrian with a passenger in that government. I remember they were having a food expo in Lofa County, Steve. Food expo. How they call it? World Agriculture Food Day or something like that.
Yeah, Carrie to have that.
Don't joker them cross into Guinea to go buy produce to come and display it because the UN was sending people there. Other international dignitaries were going there. They crossed into Masanta and they bought produce to display. They had to build that tash stuff. They build a whole like a whole how you call it? The word escapes me. But the display that they have, the pavilion, with a display, they will cross into Guinea to buy edos, cassava, potato, pepper, the fresh crops to come and display in Lofa County. Because you know why? Since the war, the Lofians fled and came to Monrovia. They filled up that rail area and other areas, right? And many of them have not gone back. So as a result, those who have gone back have been in subsistence. They are existential in the mentality. They have not started really producing to really contribute to the national part. So as a result, there was a shortfall. Government, instead of looking at the shortfall and saying how we can fill that shortfall by engaging these farmers, by going to the local community and other communities that are in Monrovia, people who have practically been displaced, but they have already adapted to city life, how we can engage these people to come back home so that they can get involved in food crop production. Nothing, Mr. Gibbon. Nothing.
Well, guys, we're running. I'm mismanaging my time here real quick. We'll come back to this here. Let's go to number 4 finally, and hopefully we can have a few minutes to take some comments here and some calls. Let's go to we are now in the real political season here. It has kicked off. I don't care what you say. Now we are here. It's the battle of the lists. Mr. Tule, Mr. Steve Bully, and Choppy here, we are talking about when Cummings came on the same, he said, I am the man with the cleanest hands. I will not deal with people who are contaminated. We're talking about misfits and murderers and squanderers and you name it. He's going to bring the change. He's going to bring a new change. And everybody hailed him and said, listen, this man is a man of principle. And to my surprise, 2 days ago, a little over maybe 72 hours, Mr. Cummings produced a list. George, Mr. Bullet, excuse me, I'm calling you George Bullet. There was another Steve Bullet when I was at ULA, when I was vice president for administration. He was vice president for executive, and he was Steve Bullet who was in Washington, D.C. Much older than you were. You're a young man. But here we are. Steve, I know you are ANC man in disguise because you sometimes you straddle the.
Mr. Give me your friend Ben and what he got.
The student have put a finger. He has arrived. You present, my friend?
Let him man go home.
Yes.
Man.
Sorry guys. I came on just to stress one point. Specifically, regarding the rice issue. I will tell you guys that the CDC does have a plan. It is in the Pro-Poor agenda for development. Let me tell you this. The Pro-Poor agenda for development has 4 planks. On the place of the economy, that's where we put agriculture. Agriculture is the most important aspect. And that plan focus on farmers as well as increasing their yields. But let me tell you this. What we are experiencing in Liberia is just crass incompetence. The government is incompetent. They have a plan that they cannot execute. So it's not that they don't have a plan. It is in the proper agenda. If you check that, it is under the economy. That is the number 1 thing under the economy, agriculture. But the CDC government is incompetent. Nobody should make excuses for them. This has been almost 5 years, and you cannot execute. We are having this rice problem over and over and over. It's a disgrace. The government has failed. We must be honest. They have a plan that they cannot execute. So we should not excuse that. The government is incompetent, and that's the bottom line.
And I will agree. Kofa, I will agree with you. Kofa, I will agree with you because let me say this to you. It is incomprehensible and it's actually repulsive that a nation like Liberia, with all the rainfall, 2nd highest rainfall in West Africa, 3rd highest rainfall in Africa next to Gabon, next to Gabon and Sierra Leone. And I will tell you something, it's incomprehensible that our country can feed itself for 2 weeks if we don't have imported rice. We can't. Because we're not even growing other crops like yams and sweet potatoes and edibles and cassava that can fill. Sierra Leone, next door to us, started something during their war, the first term of Kaba. They started something called the Cassava Initiative. I will tell you this today. Most times when you buy gari in Liberia that don't have sand in it, it came from across the border. Anytime you go to Boakai side, you will see trucks laden with bags of gari coming from Sierra Leone to Liberia. We are happy as a people, consumers of gari, to go to Sierra Leone and buy good gari and come to Liberia and sell it. But we ourselves, right? We to buy the mills so that the people can grow the cassava and then mill it so they can have good value without sand and other impurities in it. We are negligent. Let me tell you something. I will agree with Kofa. It's down to incompetence. After 4 years, you don't have any other excuse to say the prior government did not do it, so therefore that's why we are failing to do it. Then that means step aside because you are unable to do your job.
What? Let me clarify. Let me clarify the allegation quick. Let me clarify the allegation Mr. Gaiman made.
Mr. Gaiman, hurry up because we got number 4. We got to address.
Yeah,
that's the reason.
No, please, guys, I have to go.
Mr.
Yes, I have to go. I have to go. I'm on the road. Please.
Go ahead. You're not throwing your firebomb. Go ahead. Yes.
So, Mr. Gaiman, just before you proceed with your question for me on number 4, we are in a public sphere here, and a lot of people would listen to this. A lot of people are listening to this. and insinuations or assertions can go very far. So I want to use the same public forum to clear the air that your assertion or allegation that I am an ANC partisan or I support ANC or I'm Cummings man, however you want to term it, is false. It has no iota of truth. And I would like for you to please take it back, because that is not true. We can't be passing around with myth, especially you being a host of a show. Unless you have a fact to corroborate that, I'll ask you to take it back.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a breaking news here, and this is why we like this. This is very intellectual. Mr. Steve Bullitt today had denounced.
No, but he just denounced it. He
No,
said it's not part of.
Okay. Mr. Steve Bullitt have made a proclamation. He has made it clear that he is non-partisan. You belong to no party, right?
I belong to no political party. I have no political leader. No political affiliations.
Excellent. And that's a good clarification. And let me tell you this: when I was in the 1979, when we were at the back of Mafia Stooges and we were doing everything, he tell when you get into the group, before you get initiated, he asks you what is your political affiliation. As once you say I am neutral, he says stay away from this guy. He is the most dangerous man in our group. Oh. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying here, I know where Tule stands. I know where Charlie stands. I know where I stand. I don't know where Steve stands. So Steve, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, Steve. So Steve, let's go ahead here. Talk to me about this list.
Well, the first thing I want to say about the list is
both lists, because we expect you to come up with his list.
The first thing I want to say about the CDC list is I still have question in as much as the CDC is trying to maintain her base, as we will say. I still have question about the incorporation of some new names that I saw on there. I still have questions about the incorporation and the maintenance of the new people that they bring on board, considering we've seen for the past 5 years that there's been a lot of disenchantment in CDC, a lot of noise, talk of breakaway, drama, wahala, people are not satisfied and so forth. As evidenced by that, some of them even voted against the CDC candidates in the senatorial elections twice, which made CDC stronghold Monserrato, quote-unquote Monserrato, to no longer exist anymore because Senator Dara Dillon was able to beat them twice. But let's move fast forward to the Cummings because of the sake of time. Let's move forward to the Cummings list. I personally, in as much that I have some reservation on some names within that list or on a list, I would say here clearly the list is strategic and the list is strong, considering the actors that you have on that list. Those actors are people that can move things around. As evidenced by that, Mr. Tule and the United Party are jittering because they could not bring some of these guys back to the United Party who helped the United Party win elections twice in our country. Some of those names are on our list.
Throw out some of those names real quick. I got my pen here. Let me get
Look at it. No.
Mr. Tule, let me take my
I'll get you two. Let me get you two quick for the sake of time. Get with Macintosh.
Okay.
Cassell.
Who Cassell?
You can't dismiss.
Pinky, your girl.
You can't dismiss.
Okay.
You can't dismiss.
Okay.
You can't dismiss the impact. And so the CDC is also jittering. They're complaining that this guy, he says he's a clean male, he's a clean or whatever it is, given. But you have to keep things in context as to what Mr. Cummings said, though. And just by that, I'm inviting you guys because I was invited on the Ascendi show on 7th.
But it looks like you okay. Even though you're not part of, I will call you off. Even though you're not part of ANC, you are a complete apologist for ANC. No, if you don't listen to yourself, you should listen to yourself.
No. Listen now. Y'all want the facts, right? You want the facts.
You present the fact from a non-neutral position.
No, the United Party.
But you are vested in the team.
When the United Party tag team came up, you didn't see people jittering like the way United Party is jittering. And that's a little concerning. We got to be factual here. Nobody passed around and took it personal and started making noise around the town. You brought your JMB tag team list up. Nobody complained about it, but you guys are complaining. Let's move fast forward to the United Party, to the CDC. The reason the CDC is generating also, the reason they're acting also, is because part of this list also includes people that helped President George Weah come to power. Because President George Weah could not maintain them, the CDC, the same mismanagement.
And who that person that helped?
Yeah, but David McIntosh too.
Oh, I see McIntosh.
Oh,
Okay.
but you talking about the Venezuela went the other way according to Tom. Remember that?
But you give me share now because I didn't neutral mayor and that's why you're exercising in the room. But here's the issue. Here's the issue, though. Here's the issue. To be quite honest, Mr. Cummings could use his assertions and say whatever he wants to say. But let's be fair that those of you who think that Mr. Cummings is nothing or he's 7% or he's nobody, I wouldn't get mad. I would focus because he's making a mistake. This is politics. If you think he's making a mistake, don't get problem with the mistake he's making. As a matter of fact, I will encourage you to keep making the mistake because it should benefit you. But the fact that you are mad,
are you hearing yourself?
I tell you
something. I would tell Steve, are you hearing yourself? You just went against the old man Jana and told him that the man should take back his comment and say you are for ANC. Yes. I've never this is let me tell you, I've observed you, right? And I can tell you are not neutral. So stop saying you're neutral.
Okay, that's fine. It's your right. It's your right to say that. Let me end my thought.
Chappie.
Yeah.
Or Steve, go ahead. Let Steve land. Go ahead.
No, the man called me or my thought.
Sorry.
I'm saying in essence, I'm from the psychological background. And so I look at this thing not just on the surface, I look at it from a deeper stand. If you say somebody is not a threat to you and they're making mistake, I would encourage you to tell that person to keep making that mistake. In fact, I will support you. I will enthuse you to make that mistake. But if I come to the point wherein I start having problems with a mistake that you are making, then I have a problem. That's all I want to say.
Great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me have a disclaimer before you come in, Charlie. Daniel Chia is on our list. Daniel Chia is my first cousin. Tom Wowoyu was the leader of the MPFL, and that was my uncle. So and those are people that I vehemently disagree with in depth, and even now, from 1989, when they met in Washington, D.C. with the ACDL, I was there and I told them that they were about to destroy the country. And I sent them back to what Ambassador Swain said, that if their war goes on, Liberia will retrogress 50 years. I reminded him before he died. Daniel Chia is back on the scene, and I'm saying to you, he's a cousin of mine, but what I said in 1989, I'm saying it here. These guys are some of the reasons why we are where we are. And he's a very, very close first cousin of mine. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Before I get to this listing of Mr. Cummings, I just want to go back quickly to respond to this issue about CDC don't have a plan for agriculture. I attempted to explain that, but was interrupted. But let me just say it very quick. The CDC in 2018 adopted a plan called Liberia Agricultural Sector Investment Plan. That plan, I just want to say a few things about it before I come to the question of the coming list. That plan said by 2030, there is one of the goals is to reduce hunger significantly by 2030, and also to increase nutritional food to infants and other people. And then one of the goals is that by 2023, which is next year, by the end of next year, it wants to increase the agriculture production in the country, which will go at least from 26% to 35%. And also talk about reduction in post-harvest loss, because a lot of time people make farms and most of the produce they lost it because they don't have access for service or selling other things. So it talks about reducing that loss from your farming by 50%, and many other good things the CDC plan talks about. But I just wanted to point that out because what we see there is that most of the targets the CDC plan articulates, we have not even reached to that time frame, the end of that time frame. It is because nation building is a process. These things does not happen overnight. The government inherited a deep economic freeze, a deep economic depression. There was a downturn in the economy. we first have to stabilize the economy before you can add growth. Stabilization takes some time, especially so when you have a very small financial space in the country. So you have to create other sources of revenue that will increase the government expense to be able to pay for expenses before you do a lot of other investment. But there is a plan, call it whatever you want. The Liberia Agricultural or Sector Investment Plan is there. It was developed in 2018. So that is a plan. You might not like the plan, but disagree.
Yeah,
but they said that CDC has no plan. It's wrong. So coming back to the Cummings list. For the Cummings list, I'm not so concerned about the personality that Cummings has put on his team. I'm not concerned about whether these people coming from MPFL or they're coming from whatever. That's not my concern, because every citizen in the country has a right to participate in the political process until it is proven guilty. That individual is proven guilty that he cannot participate or his right has been suspended. But I'm more concerned about Cummings' approach to democracy. Cummings has said repeatedly that doing the same thing over and over will give different results. What I see Cummings doing is undermining the political party, the democratic institution building framework. Number one, the announcement of a Cummings team is a side step to the political party institutional framework. One would think that Cummings should be strengthening the political party ANC, deepening democracy. But now he's doing the same thing that we have accused other politicians of doing by creating a personality cult. So everybody now has to come and worship Cummings. So he set up a Cummings team. So it's no more a political party institution building, but it's about Cummings now. That's what we're going to be looking at. So that's my first point. The second point I also want to look at is the undermining of democratic norms by Cummings. Usually the announcement of presidential teams happen when the Elections Commission has sounded a whistle for people to campaign or construct a political party team. Now we see Cummings not even waiting for the Election Commission to sound that whistle. He is now coming ahead and announcing these teams, which to me undermines the whole framework of democracy. So that's another problem.
How?
And I just explained it.
How?
Elections Commission. I just told you about Election Commission timeline. I just told you. Even though he's not violating the law, but I'm saying that in the spirit of deepening democracy, you would think that he will be waiting for that time frame. What he's doing is not a violation of the law. But I'm saying that his actions does not strengthen democracy.
Oh, so
it does not strengthen
what
democracy.
about your list? What about your list?
Listen.
Oh, you put on a list. You put on a list. It strengthens democracy.
What about your list?
It's a petition list. It's a petition. It is not a presidential team. It's a petition. To petition the president to organize a program.
But it's just nomenclature.
No. Listen.
Just nomenclature are different.
No. Listen, Chairman, as you have the time to finish, the CDC list is to organize a program. That list to organize a program. Cummings has established a team. He's established a team, Cummings. That's a different thing altogether. The people are not established to organize a program. So it's different from the CDC. The CDC people, every time in political party, you can set up a committee. This is an ad hoc committee to organize a program, a petition program. That's very different. After the petition program, that particular group dissolves. It's an ad hoc team. It's an ad hoc or committee. So it's different from Cummings announcing a team, Cummings, which does not strengthen democracy.
By your definition,
you interrupting.
Okay, sorry.
Now, the another point there is that when the announcement, you have limited time to speak, my brother.
No, I don't take the amount of time you take.
Hey, Joe Tule, the more you
interrupting,
the more you
you can be talking forever, bro. Come on.
Go ahead.
You keep interrupting. The other point there is that the announcement of the team show a big disconnection between Cummings and the electorate. Cummings has been on the political scene now for more than 5 years. He campaigned in the first year 2011. He ran as a presidential candidate. You would think by now Cummings will have a strong ground game going on. But instead, he is just trying to rebuild his political machinery. The announcement shows he's just trying to rebuild a political machine. So that means he has been doing no work. He has been disconnected. If he's just announcing his teams to work for him, it shows that he's been off base. So those are my takes.
Mr. Tule.
Yeah, the first thing, you who have the incumbency, you couldn't muster the intestinal fortitude to contest a county-wide election on the merit of your party's name, you had to go through an independent candidate. And now you muster the same temerity to criticize somebody else about name recognition and not having a grand game. You had a grand game. You won Monserrato. You have always won Monserrato, but you lost Monserrato twice under what's his name? Under George Weah to Darius Dillon. You don't talk about game. You don't talk about your the legitimacy of your quest to maintain power. You contested several by-elections across the country that you overwhelmingly lost. Local elections were overwhelmingly lost by CDC, both when they supported independent candidates and when they ran on their own name. So you scared your name in Liberia. CDC scared it. In local county, CDC could not afford to say I'm a CDC candidate to put that CDC name up because of how woeful and how inadequate your leadership has been in Liberia. Jala could not afford, Councillor Jala could not afford to say, he knew he was a citizen, but he couldn't afford to say, I'm running under CDC. And here today you're questioning another political party. And you say the man is not strengthening democracy, the man he announcing too early and all of that. If the man is announcing early, the man doesn't have a ground game. What it concern you now? Let him go ahead. Yeah, but let me. I support Joseph Boakai. We have not announced our list because, to your point, we are strengthening democracy. So guess what? I don't care. I know that list is a convergence of people from Musa Ability / Liberty Party. That list contains people from Ellingham, UP on that list. That list is a potpourri of people who have failed politically, who have succeeded politically. Guess what? They are all Liberians, and they all deserve to be on whoever list they want to be on. And I don't care.
Okay,
I'm saying my own now today. I don't care about any list. Whoever want to be on. Another thing I want to say, let me dispel this thing. As much as I disagree personally with a lot of the personal decisions that Cummings take, Mr. Gayman. Cummings will not find different people to kind of run campaign in Liberia. That is seeing corrupt Liberians, all will depend on to run, because guess what? Our country is sick, is very, very corrupt. So if you're going to say you want to run, I had the same problem with my mentor. We will have that same discussion all the time. Who are you going to run? Find? Who are you going to? If you want to pull up the list and say only these people who haven't done these things can become part of my political organization, you will be standing there for long by yourself.
Well,
because yes, Mr. Gayman.
This is why people who are politically astute, when you are talking, you are measured. That's why these are ropes that people don't dangle, because people will use them to hang you. That's why when seasoned politicians are going, you hire handlers. For instance, one of the most important things in politics is optics. And I don't know who is the coming handlers. Who are the handlers? For instance, let's look at when the previous election, when they had that collaborative meeting in, I think it was either in Ganta or somewhere, where you had George Weah 6'4", you have Ure, I think 6'3", and then you have Mr. Cummings, who is 5'1", in the middle, and he lifted his hands like this, and he looked like a puppet.
What play when I hear those things?
As a handler, let me give you an example. As a Republican, let me give you an example. During the election of the George Bush, Barack Obama election. Okay.
Mr. Gayman, ask you one simple question.
I'm coming. Let me give you an example. Not before that, John Kerry. When the vice presidential election was being held, Dick Cheney is fat. He's slumping over. He doesn't look good. So Joe Lieberman told him, say, I will take you on. The Republican got together and said the optic will look bad. So what we do, we're going to negotiate that this is going, but since Dick Cheney comes from a corporate style, corporate organization, we will have him sit behind a desk So let's convince the Democrat to sit with us. Let's have a round table. And the Democrat made a mistake and fell for that. All of what I'm saying here is when that camera came on, Dick Cheney was sitting as though he was still the CEO of Halliburton. A politician who is Joe Lieberman that is so comfortable at a podium and lecturing was in a position where he was not comfortable as a CEO. And that optic took them to the losing camp. This is what I'm saying. When you hire handlers, you have to optimize your strength and minimize your faults. Okay.
Mr.
This is what it is.
I asked a question. Where was the man supposed to stand?
I wouldn't have, in fact, told him, listen, if you are going to sit with these folks, you have to sit far apart.
But that you see, Mr. Gimmon,
strategy.
Can I reclaim my time? My time? I was talking when you came in. Mr. Gimmon, that doesn't matter. The stature really doesn't matter. It's what he brings to the table. George Weah, a tall man. Guess what? Academically, he's short. Very, very short. He's a midget.
Listen.
He's an academic midget.
Politics is optic.
Yeah, okay, I agree. But guess what, too? The Liberian people don't even consider because most of us in Liberia are short. Liberian and tall people. So we really don't care. But my point to you is this, and I will say this. I'm a supporter for Joseph Boakai. The issue of Cummings' list, for me, is a non-issue. Because I already told you here, I've said it to you many times, that Cummings had the support of Madam Salif. And you, Mr. Gaiman, you many times said I was just picking things up from the air to talk it. Look at the people on that list. Now the same people who, when Ellen went to go support George Weah, I follow her to support George Weah. The people on that list, when they're not the same people who, when Ellen broke out from Liberty, from Unity Party and went to support Weah, were they not the people that crossed the carpet to go with her? They're not the same people today supporting Cummings. So what does that tell you? These people are answerable to Madam Salif. So it tells you that Madam Salif has decided, I'm telling you today, she has decided to pitch her tent in Cummings' yard. Okay? Along with, and guess what? Belete. Who told you Belete own anything like brother on his own? This, I know, whatever the country, Shermax or whatever he runs. Who told you that his own money he running? Where Belete get money from to import and export fuel into Liberia, Mr. Cummings? I mean, Mr. Gamer. Where he get that money from? When Belete came to the limelight, now honor Madam Salif. Who is he? Who he operates for? Anything Belete does, and let me tell you something. He's her foot soldier. He takes instructions from her. So his alignment with Cummings, whatever he's doing, is based on his benefactor sending him to go and operate. But I would say this: whether that Belete, whether that Gabriel McIntosh, when Gabriel McIntosh goes somewhere, who sent him there? That him himself? Say you been knowing Mr. McIntosh, Mr. Gaiman, you here. When last you saw Mr. McIntosh operating on your own and not at the behest of Mr. Salif? Tell me today. I will shut up. The day you see that, when last you saw him, since I've been knowing him. Okay, since I've been knowing him, he has never operated on his own. He operated at the behest of Madam Salif. So the point here to you is this: whether that Gabriel McIntosh or whoever else, or even Prince Johnson, whoever else, they are all Liberians. Guess what? The only thing me I ask for is that at NEC, the program, the software used to tabulate votes, the process that they use at NEC, I'm going to champion this thing for now to election time. Something must be done about it. That algorithm needs to be changed. That software needs to be, that software needs to be audited and to ensure impartiality, to ensure fairness in the election. That's all I ask for. Who won John who got money? Let all have a level playing field. We all campaign. The Liberian people go and vote. Whoever, if they decide to repose their confidence in George Weah, so be it. That their choice, that the bed they will make, they will live inside. Whoever else they support, fine. I'm only saying that as the fact is, in Liberia, that's so recycle waste in terms of human being that we got in the political field. The majority of them, they corrupt, and they have no gumption, they have no scruples. They are all very, very, very unscrupulous, corrupt people who will sell you down the road. So what in concern me with the list?
Great. Gentlemen, we're running out of time here. Let's go to our closing. I want you to please do me a favor. Can we continue this conversation next Sunday, same time, 4 o'clock, if you have the time? Because we want to put a little twist on it. We want to actually see where the political parties stand. We want to see where all of these maneuvering, where it is leading, and who has the upper hand. So let's go to the closing here. You got 2 minutes. And at the end of the closing, we have a tradition here. I want you to give me a political play of the week or of the month. Before you go to that, I think somebody just said we should read few comments here before we go. So, George Tully, you read 5, Mr. Bullet 5, and then we can go on from there.
So all political liars. This is from Margaret, one of my favorite, Margaret Mapu Dyson. I hope I got the name right. All political liars will be made shame in 2023.
Okay.
Next one, Elder James C. Bly Jr. It is a crime to use Ellen's folks. But is it? Oh no, sorry. Is it a crime to use Ellen's folks? But started playing with money from his days as a student at AME community colleges, now university. AME Zion, or is it AME Zion Community College that was at the school he went to? I thought at AMU he went to. I'm not aware. You pay money for who? That child said he had at lead that team, man. I can give you the whole story. Let's go on to the next one, man. Sekou Sharif. If you trust your team, come to the battlefield. Who joins who in what faction should not concern you. I will look for my own team too.
That's right.
Yeah. Huh? The next one, please.
Darlington.
All right, Darlington. Paili.
Yeah.
Tule ran away since his man was whipped in the last election in Lofa County. Welcome back. I'm glad to see you on the show again. Yeah, I ran away. That's true. This show is just something someone who can come and contribute, my brother. We got other things that
let's
can
go. Let's go.
But you put it there.
Sam
Wallow. Hopefully, folks now have a better understanding of why the United States is laser focused on accountability in Liberia. Mr. Gaiman, stop picking the thing and just show them. You're picking them. That's what you're doing.
You see my hand? Clean hand.
Your
hand.
hand can never be clean.
Clean hand.
Now, you said you want to put to read too?
Yeah, after this one, that is Steve.
Okay. The United Party under Ellen Sirleaf is not a Joseph Boakai-led government or administration. That's just the truth. From Franklin Weah. You guys must stop being irrational and illogical. I know you favor Mr. Cummings and George Weah, but please be professional on your show. Many are watching. You need to be objective and reasonable in your analysis. The George Weah-led administration or government is not a Joe Howard Taylor-led government. As simple as that. You can certainly hold Madam Taylor responsible for George Weah's failures. Are you not? Okay, that one finished. Yeah.
Okay, Steve, you took the next 5.
This CDC guy has no understanding about what he wants.
Yeah, you gotta pronounce the name first. That's what Emmanuel Barkley.
Emmanuel Barkley. This CDC guy has no understanding about what he wants to discuss about this discussion. Is that Hoxton C. Brooks? CDC plan for the next 12 months. Keep rice and petroleum available on the Liberian market. What result will this plan yield? We are victory at 2023. Yay, we are 23. LRA. Josiah Smith. She met Blowjaw. Blowjaw is politically bankrupt on this show. Sam Wolu. Sam Wolu. Cummings is curiously worked so hard that he now has made himself irrelevant. Mona Kekula, when he told the Liberian people that they straddled many opportunities. They straddled many opportunities.
Say squander, yeah.
Oh, many opportunities. Was it in who government before you telling people to not blame him?
Oh, okay. Mwake kula.
Jiple, Cabral,
Cabra. Yeah, trouble.
Steve is not being sincere. Stop the preambulation.
The perambulation. You want to face the truth.
Say what?
Sam Walu. The lies bears the question. What does Cummings stand for? What are his values? And what does he understand what Liberia has been through?
Okay, Chappie, you go for the next 5.
All right, sir. Chiple, Cabra, Chebo, Nonsense, Cassell. What political capital he has in Liberia? You are right, too late. And then friendly word again, nation building is a progressive, positive process, but not a negative, regressive project. Mr. Speaker.
Now you were talking to.
Yumotro Kanga, I cannot feed our people for 6 years. And you are talking about 2030 foolishness. The president will be one-term president. All the games you're playing with the opposition or you corrupt criminals won. It's over. Cristiano King, you guys should realize that coronavirus frees up so many plans for this government. Good point. Good point. Rhonda Thomas, Musa Bede credit from bank to banks and allow all the bank loans to buy on the bank's book. Laughing out loud. What's the number? Call James Brown.
Okay, James Brown. The number scroll right underneath there.
Johnson M. Telawoyan. The folks who support him as a brother don't support Ellen. So don't you all see the disconnect between Ellen and JB? I actually support JB, but if no JB, I will absolutely support ABC.
Okay, gentlemen, those are some of the comments coming in from all directions here. We're going to go ahead and do our closing. We won't take any comments. We got no time. I know there's another show coming up. We hopefully next Sunday, Steve, you will be back here with us for an hour or so. Mr. Charlie, hopefully next Sunday you can make time on your calendar, because I know from what I'm reading here, the comments here, there's a lot of unfinished subject here that we all need to address. Next Sunday, this is where we are.
Let me be the first because I gotta go.
Yeah. Go ahead. You got your 2 minutes.
Okay. Regarding the list, let me say this to Sam. Cummings has already removed every doubt regarding where his values lie. As much as I agree that you're not going to import new Liberians to come and do politics in Liberia for you, in the midst of it, you have to show the Liberian people a clear demarcation, a clear dichotomy between where you stand and where the Liberianness ends. Okay? And Cummings have shown that with him, everything is blurred. Everything is a gray area. There are no clear black and white. He's not binary. Okay? The Bronsky, when I followed Bronsky was very binary. Even if Bronsky was to allow something that he realized was outside of his values, he will make it very, very clear. I'm allowing this to happen, but this is where I stand. Because I'm not the only person in the political party. There are other people in the political party. And if they want to go ahead with something, let them go ahead. But this is where I stand. Because you know what? A political party is not a one-man show. So if the other partisans wanted to take a particular course of action that was totally against where he stood, he always made it clear, this is where I stand. Though. And sometimes what we would do with him we'll just go ahead and do what we want to do. Then we'll come back and explain, because we know when we we decided to discuss it with him, he would say no. And then when you stay insisted, then it becomes insubordination. So my point here is this: Liberia, we need leaders that have scruples. We need leaders that are not feckless. We need leaders that are accountable, transparent, honest, people of integrity. We need leaders, people. You can't be too greedy for power that you become immoral. You become somebody who doesn't have any particular stance in terms of the society. Liberia is very corrupt. So when you operate with people like Musa Belete and the rest of them, let us know where you stand. And that's what Cummings neglects to do on a daily basis. So if regarding the list is a reflection of who Cummings is. That's why I told you. Cummings disqualifying for me. One of the things that disqualifies Cummings with me is his association with Madame Salif. Anybody who associates with Madame Salif on that point and don't break up with her and don't let everybody know that I'm breaking up with her because we have a point of divergence, we're not in agreement on certain things, and the way she operates, I don't agree with it, I will not support you. So for now, Cummings doesn't have my support. George Weah, Cummings, the same boat. They all support Madame Salif. Let them go ahead and do what they want to do.
Thank you very much. Steve, thank you very much for coming. You're closing.
Well, it's interesting. Like I said from the beginning, that's why I don't like to listen to Unity Party or JMB supporters and CDC supporters, because not that they are not Liberians, but I think they have no standings to tell what's going on, what's good. Who the Liberian people, we who don't belong to any party. I would rather look at Chawan Gonglo or Cummings than to look at both of them, because they are just a beautiful nonsense, both of them. They make excuses. How can you tell? How can Mr. Tule talk about desperation when you have Joseph Yuma Boakai? When you say they say you Cummings man or you insulted the papi, but these are the things that some of us don't like. You can't be pissing on my head and telling me say raining. I don't do that. I don't do well with that. Let's keep it 100% if we want the country to move forward. Joseph Yuma Boakai, who is at his age and his health, still wants to be president. That does not show desperation. And you tell other people that they're desperate. Are you serious? That the discussion we'll be having? You see, when we do these kind of things, it just shows that we're not ready and we're not serious people. But to be quite honest, I think the conversation about this country, if we want to move this country forward, is to get rid of the deceptions. Is to get rid of deception. But I will also agree with him that if you are in a political party, you have a political leader or whatever it is, don't even worry about the Cummings team. Go focus on your own team. Let Cummings worry about his team. Secondly, everybody has claimed that he's a 7%, 6%. Good. Why worry about the 7%, 6%? Leave him alone. Stay focused. Time is running out. You're focused on your political agendas and stuff. And to my brother, Mr. Charlie, he talked about how Cummings is trying to derail the process or this one. Let me say this: the political process in the country, or quote unquote, it's too early for him to do this or for him to do that. Let me tell you something. Again, it comes back to the hypocrisy I talked about. You guys are not serious. You guys are not serious about this country. Instead of telling President George Weah and the CDC-led government, especially the executive branch of government, to put their acts together, considering with the Joy Howard Taylor saga that's going on in MPP and other places, more likely so you might not be re-elected. You're not focused on that. You're focused on things that really truly matter. Because as I listen to other people, never once did they say this was a campaign team. We need to stay focused. That's not what it was said. JMB launched a tag team. It was not a problem. You are bringing out people endorsement or whatever it is. That's fine. The political process is not open. So let's start to focus on our political parties. And we who are neutral people will hold you accountable. And if Cummings does something that is wrong, he will be held accountable. Like I said, I disagree with some people on his list, but I still think the list is strategic and forceful. I disagree with some people on the CDC list, but I think the CDC is proactive enough too to want to create this kind of momentum and enthusiasm. It's a good strategy for a political party. Using this for a political party, it's very good. Nothing's wrong with it. The JMB tag team, it's a good thing too. But no one's perfect. No political party is perfect. So let us not cast the blame. Let's hold each other accountable, especially the CDC-led government that is in power. let's encourage the government to do what is right for our people while they are still in power. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Choppy?
Yeah, thank you again for having me tonight. And, you know, a lot of contradictions we heard here tonight from the other side. But I just like to go over, summarize some of our main points tonight, which is consistent with the rule of law, democracy, and good governance. One, the question of war crime code. The United States Global War Crime Ambassador in Liberia has talked about transitional justice. And in the transitional justice framework, the legislature some time ago brought up a paperwork that needs to be discussed and approved in keeping with international laws, where any country legislature is responsible for enacting laws that govern the country and ratifying international conventions. So Liberia is on track in terms of that aspect. Secondly, we have to do with the rice price. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, not Ellen Johnson Sirleaf per se, I would say Joseph Boakai Unity Party. Joseph Boakai Unity, Major Joseph Boakai Unity Party increased the price of rice to $16, and George Weah brought the price of rice down to $13, and we've been dealing with that $13 right now. So the Unity Party, Joseph Boakai Unity Party, cannot come in this debate and talk about rice question when they failed after a report by international partner to invest in agriculture. Joseph Boakai has no record of any agricultural progress in the country. The Green Revolution was not his idea. It was Samuel Doe agriculture program. His work at LPMC, he was just a manager that President Turbo hired to work in LPMC. It was not his record. He has no history. Even for the 12 years he worked as vice president and president of the Liberia Senate, he did not personally invest in agriculture. So I will let to leave it here on this note by saying that the government is moving. There's a plan that the government has. The timeline for this plan has not reached yet. A nation building is a long process. The CDC list is not a standing committee. They were just an ad hoc list to play a petition which ends on December 17. So do not compare that list with Cummings, Team Cummings, which undermines the institutional framework of democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say very, very, very thank you and appreciation to Steve, to Thule, and to Charlie for such a intellectual, well-balanced discussion. This is what I keep saying. If we have had something similar like this in 1988, 89, I doubt if we would have gone to the butchers of Butchwell to kill each other. Now that we have the statistics, now we're seeing the aftermath of this war, what it has done to the young folks. I was riding with Bishop Innes a few years ago, and we got to this gas station in Monrovia, and there was this amputee that was coming, and I was driving. The driver were in UMC 1, and I told him to stop at the gas station. I took a dollar bill, US dollar bill, and I gave it to him. And I expected the young man to say, "Thank you, Mr. Gayman," or "Thank you, sir." Instead, he said, "That's all?" And I said, "Yes, sir, that's all I got." He said, "Look at you. I almost lost my life for you. I lost my limb. And now that you are in government, all you have to give me is $1. This is somebody who was a victim of the war, trying to persecute me, who has nothing to do with the war. This is what we have created. Those who created this war and created these Zogos and these disadvantaged kids, they have all left. And those of us who are there trying to fix this mess, now we have become the targets. So I'm saying this, guys, we got another show coming. Can you put that flyer back up? Red, we have another great show coming on here, focus on Liberia. They present causes of the repeated rice shortage in Liberia and possible solutions. And Dr. Wogley Espay, an agricultural scientist, is going to be together at 7 o'clock. 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I think it's 11 p.m. GMT in Liberia today, right after this show. So please tune in. It's going to be a beautiful show, and it's going to be a continuation of this, right? What are some of the things that we need to do? But I'm saying this to say, we who are trying to fix this, there is no need for us to be at each other's throat. And those, I know Steve said, don't worry about the list, but in politics, one of the things that we do is, one of the things you don't want to do, and something that the other guy wants to do, you want to be able to define your opposition. And I think CDC did that very well the first time around when they called Cummings a stranger. This guy don't know anybody, he's a stranger. Now the second term, they have now defined him now as a seventh percenter. So when you say this, in politics, it's all about optics and about jingles. And if you allow it to stick, it will stick. And for what I'm saying, when you are talking about President Weah and the CDC, they define Joe Boakai in this past election as Sleepy Joe. And then during the election here in the United States, you saw President Trump using that term, Sleepy Joe, calling Joe, Sleepy Joe, everybody went nuts. So you don't want your opposition to define who you are. And this is what they are doing to Cummings. So I asked earlier, who are his handlers? Handlers are folks who got an ear to the ground that are saying, listen, if we don't stop this particular thing, it's going to be a train and a tsunami. We have to stop it right here before it goes. But they allow this to go. They are concentrating on lists and lists and lists. And I'm seeing this coming. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring this up real quick in closing. If you can see this, Mr. Choppy, if you can read this. This came out. This was July 18, 2017. It says, the government of Liberia to experience huge deficit of $41 million. The outgoing president said the next government is most likely going to operate in bankruptcy. This is it. This is facts. So when Charlie talked about building a nation means you have to address the wrong and then build upon it, and it takes time. This is it.
Mr. Gamer, can you please share the article also for the public? You can just put a flyer and just read.
I will share it with you, but this is what it looks like. It says here July. You see the date, and that is the topic.
No, July when? I can see it too small.
Yeah, it's July 18, 2017. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, please.
Front Page Africa, star writer on July 18, 2017. It said the government of Liberia to experience huge deficit of 41 million. And then it said the next government likely to run in bankruptcy. That's the Ellen government, and at the time he's the outgoing finance minister. So we are saying this to buttress what the young man said when he said the government has to address the deficit and then build upon that, and it takes time. These are some of the things when you are coming $41 million in the hole, you can't even pay.
No. I will disagree with you, Mr. Gamer.
You can't even pay.
Mr. Gamer, I will disagree with you.
Remember the protests that they were doing.
I would disagree with you.
It came at a time where we couldn't pay government salaries. We couldn't meet our obligations. All of those things came together to cause the election of someone like Dylan. Those factors are no longer there. So we know very well this is going to be a tsunami and a first round victory, my friend.
No, you can't do that to the Liberian people because you support the CDC. Let's be balanced and fair. You can't say that. Why did the Joe-led government not provide an audited report of what yes, that would have been a prerequisite to lay the basis. Second of all, up until now, the President George Weah's government has not been able to address the saga of the 16 billion that was missing, the 25 million saga also.
We addressed that. The Crow report addressed that, so we're not even going to read.
It's inconclusive, and we can go over that. I will make time to come here so we can discuss these facts because y'all want to use these fallacies to
those are exogenous factors that no, those are exogenous factors that have to be addressed.
There is no facts to back this up.
you become another Tule. Your time is finished. You can't. Gentlemen, next Sunday, let's come back
next time, gentlemen. Yeah, it was nice talking to you guys.
It was great. See you next Sunday. If you have time, 4 o'clock. We'll send you the link and the topic. And if you want to expand on the topic, we'll give you a chance to do so we can incorporate it into the topic. Thank you very much. As always, we say we are all Liberian with our opposition, imposition. Wherever you are, whoever you are, we are all Liberian. Thank you very much. We take away.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.